Thank you for watching the Commission for Children and Young People's Introduction to Victoria's Child Safe Standards. Since 1 January 2017, all organisations and businesses in Victoria that provide services or facilities for children are required by law to comply with child safe standards. We all have a responsibility to keep children safe. Today, we are going to talk about how to make your organisation child safe. The focus of this presentation is to look at what your organisation can do to ensure that children and young people are not harmed by the people you employ. We will look at why the child safe standards have been legislated in Victoria and what the research tells us about child abuse in organisations. We will go through each of the standards and how to apply them in your organisation. Before we begin, it's important that we are all clear about what we mean by the term child abuse. The child safe standards encompass sexual abuse, physical abuse, serious emotional abuse, and serious neglect. To understand the standards, we need to know about their origins. In 2012, the Victorian Parliament led the Betrayal of Trust inquiry into the handling of child abuse by religious and other non-government organisations. This came out of growing community concern not only about the extent of child abuse occurring within organisations, but also the lengths to which some bodies were going to conceal this abuse. It found problems in the way organisations prevented and responded to child abuse perpetrated by employees or volunteers. It also highlighted the long-term impact of abuse on victims. The research highlighted 3 key points. 1. Children are more likely to be abused by people they know and trust. 2. Child abuse can occur within any institution where there are children and a motivated perpetrator. And 3. There is no profile of a typical sex offender. The standards were one of many recommendations that arose from the Betrayal of Trust report. There are 3 principles that govern the child safe standards. These principles relate to the cultural safety of Aboriginal children, children from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, and children with disabilities. While all children are vulnerable, these children are particularly vulnerable to being victimised and may also find it challenging to report abuse if it happens. The child safe standards reduce the risk of abuse, avoid scope for doubt, enable staff and volunteers to feel empowered to act, give parents comfort and confidence in the culture of your organisation, and benefit your organisation. Meeting the standards is not something that you complete and move on from. It is an ongoing process. A child-safe culture in your organisation needs to be led from the top down. By routinely discussing child safety in staff meetings and forums, you can influence and guide the thinking and behaviour of others. In an organisation with a child-safe culture, everyone adheres to a clear code of conduct and stakeholders are educated about child abuse. Reporting of abuse allegations is facilitated and encouraged, and all allegations are taken seriously. No one is considered exempt from investigation, regardless of status or position. Having a culture of child safety means that your organisation always prioritises the safety and best interests of the children you work with. It means building child safety into everyday thinking and practice, taking a zero-tolerance approach to child abuse, and supporting diversity of children. To create this culture, you need to understand the nature and risks of child abuse and take deliberate steps to protect children. Your organisation should have a child-safe policy or statement of commitment. This document communicates your organisation's commitment to do all you can to safeguard children. It is the foundation of your child-safe culture and guides decision-making on child safety issues that arise. A child-safe policy is suitable for larger organisations with greater responsibility for children. A statement of commitment to child safety is appropriate for a small organisation with a lower level of responsibility for children. Your child-safe policy or statement of commitment do not need to be long or complicated. They should be clear, inclusive, relevant, culturally appropriate, and understood by people throughout the organization, including children. The policy or statement needs to be well communicated and in a place where everyone can read it. Think about posting it on your website, social media, or in your newsletter, and include it in your induction. Your organization needs to have a clear code of conduct for staff and volunteers to define and give examples of acceptable and unacceptable behaviors. A code of conduct should consider matters such as physical contact, social media and communication with children, professional personal relationships, and photographing children. The code of conduct needs to be communicated to the whole organization, including children and families. Also communicate how to raise a concern about a code of conduct breach and how your organization will respond to those allegations. Codes of conduct are one of the most effective ways to keep children safe from abuse. When behavioral expectations are clear, staff, volunteers, children, and their family members are more likely to behave appropriately and to report inappropriate behavior. It is good practice to require your staff and volunteers to sign an agreement to your code of conduct. Assessing a person's suitability to work with children requires more than just criminal background checking. While the Working with Children check is a useful tool for keeping children safe, it is not the only way to protect children from abuse. Having robust child-safe human resource processes will help you hire suitable staff and volunteers. Unsuitable people are less likely to apply to work in an organization that has strong recruitment and screening practices. These include clear job descriptions, values-based interviewing, referee checks, and direct questions to the candidate that test their suitability to work with children. Your approach to screening staff and volunteers should be outlined in your child-safe policy and/or your human resource practices. A child-safe organization welcomes the reporting of concerns. Concerns about safety are not easy to report, particularly for children. A theme in submissions to the Child Abuse Royal Commission was that child victims did not report being harmed by an adult because they felt shame, fear, and self-blame. Children reporting abuse or safety concerns must be supported and treated sensitively. To help overcome these challenges, also empower your staff and volunteers to learn how to identify indicators of abuse and be proactive about reporting concerns. Having a clear and well-communicated procedure will significantly increase the likelihood that concerns will be reported. These procedures need to be child-friendly and accessible. It is important that you contact police if you have concerns for a child's safety or believe that a child may have been abused. You must also consult with police to ensure your internal investigation does not interfere with their investigation. You need to start the conversation about child safety. Consider circumstances in which adults can be alone with children or develop relationships of trust. Think about any spaces shared by adults and children that might present risks, for example, toilets and change rooms. Review any past incidents and how they were handled. This will help you identify if there are any problem areas or if there may be any patterns of risk in your organization. Get input from your staff, volunteers, and most importantly, children. Next, have a look at existing policies in your organization to identify the culture and commitment to child safety. What are the processes your staff and volunteers have to the standards? Some of these responses will indicate the climate of child safety in your organization. Risk always exists for children in organizations. Some risks exist in all areas, all of the time, while others may exist temporarily or in specific locations. To meet the child-safe standards, your organization needs to continually identify, address, and remove risks where possible. To identify risks, you need to ask questions such as, what could go wrong? Where are the opportunities for harm? How might a person who is seeking to do harm gain access to children in our organization? Once you understand the risks, you can plan how to remove or minimize them. A child-safe organisation encourages children to contribute to planning and decision-making because participation protects children. When children feel that their contribution is valued, they are more likely to speak up if they feel unsafe or disclose instances of child abuse. Establishing an environment of trust and inclusion will enable children to speak up if they are worried. To recap, the 7 child-safe standards are: 1. Strategies to embed an organisational culture of child safety, including through effective leadership arrangements. 2. A child-safe policy or statement of commitment to child safety. 3. A code of conduct that establishes clear expectations for appropriate behaviour with children. 4. Screening, supervision, training, and other human resource practices that reduce the risk of child abuse by new and existing personnel. 5. Processes for responding to and reporting suspected child abuse. 6. Strategies to identify and reduce or remove risks of child abuse. And 7. Strategies to promote the participation and empowerment of children. For more information about child safety in organisations, we suggest you look up these reports from the Betrayal of Trust Inquiry and the Child Abuse Royal Commission. More resources are available on our website. You can also contact us directly via phone or email during business hours. Thank you for watching this presentation on Victoria's Child Safe Standards.